Gitonga, working with EiB Module 1 as a market strategist. I work with Peter Coldrick, who is also in the call. And we want to share with you the work we've been able to do, the progress that we have done so far. And also we'll be having discussions later where Peter and I will address any questions that may come up. So basically, as far as market segments, pipeline investment cases, and target product profile, they are quite interlinked. And so the purpose of this discussion will be really to show how they are interlinked, and also to show us what we have been able to achieve as EiB Module 1 so far. Moving. What we've been able to achieve as Module 1 so far. And basically in the bigger picture, in our context, what we really wanted to achieve is to have common and consistent language across all institutions, crops and regions. While we've been able to do this work, on when we were being able to do this work, we came across various and varying approaches across institutes and also crops, and we wanted to standardize this. And in the presentation, you'll be able to see how we've been able to achieve that. And also as far as assigning the level of breeding effort for each market segment and identify the level of investment. And basically we will be able to see on the metrics that we were using to determine the level of investment that would go for every market segment linked to our pipeline. Also, with regards to the 5 impact areas, the CGIAR 5 impact areas, from the market segments that we've been able to identify, one of the objectives in the bigger picture that we've been trying to achieve is also to show value per market segment and to scope the opportunity or impact, and therefore link that with the breeding investment cases to see in terms of prioritization, which market segments would have more priority over others, which are currently being addressed and which ones are not being addressed, which ones maybe they are receiving more effort than they should at the moment based on market trends, and which ones maybe are not receiving as much as investment as they should based on also the market trends. We've also sought to really make the approach very simple. We did not want to make it very complicated because with standardization and also the complexity of dealing with many crops, we've been dealing with 25 crops across regions and in the 8 institutes, and therefore the need to really keep it simple was one of our main priorities so that standardization can be achieved across. And also to be able to answer the funders' questions to allow metrics to be developed to monitor and demonstrate progress. Because at the end of the day, we want to have product adoption, yes, and also we want to show the impact that we've been able to achieve based on the 5 impact areas. So basically, as a background, what we've been able to achieve, and also which is still work that is ongoing, we've been able to identify, name, and describe the current market segments, and we'll be able to see that in detail. Also to understand current breeding pipelines and the breeding investments per pipeline. And we've also been able to describe the various metrics that we've been able to see per breeding pipeline linked to various market segments, and also to generate the investment cases. And lastly, one of the things that we have been doing, and we've made good strides on this, is generating target product profiles for each market segment. So how do the pieces fit together? We look at the market segment as the opportunity, and we've been looking at this at the 1 CGIAR region and sub-region level. And there's an opportunity also to look at this in future at country level. And as far as the investment is concerned, these are the breeding pipelines. So the opportunity is the market segment and the investment is the breeding pipeline. And to be able to go to the investment, then we have to have a good understanding of the opportunity such that we are able also to prioritize the opportunities that should go into the breeding pipelines. Going into details for the opportunity, we have the market segments. And it's one thing to identify and name, but we also need to go deeper, and which we have done to describe the market segment. As far as the description of the market segment is basically the various metrics that we've been able to use to scope the opportunity in the various market segments, which you'll be able to see. And also what is critical to understand at this point is for the target product profile for every market segment that we've been able to identify, then we develop a target product profile, which really describes the traits that will be required to meet the specific needs that have been identified for every market segment. And therefore, for the other side of the chart is the investments. And basically based on the description of the market segment, which gives us a good view of the opportunity, putting in mind the areas of impact that we want to create, then we are able to look at which pipelines have what investment, and also give justification for what investment that has been allocated for every breeding pipeline. So we'll go into the market segments. So in our context, in the spirit of standardizing, we are looking at market segments as groups of growers with common variety needs, driven by processor, consumer requirement that covers the what, which is very important because we do not want a situation where we have really put into consideration grower requirements and it becomes very easy as far as agronomic needs are met. But when it comes to really putting that product in the market, then the grower does not have a market. So it is important to have the mix of both the consumer requirement and also the processor that covers the what, and also now the grower's requirement, which now puts into consideration where the crop is grown and how the crop is grown. And we'll see as far as standardization is concerned with the market segment, these are some of the aspects we've put into consideration in the description of the market segments. The other thing that we need to put in mind is market segments are not static. They will change over time. And they change because market needs also do change. And therefore, as we are all aware, we do have the market intelligence team, and the team will be going on in terms of really keeping tab with what's happening in the market so that we are able to really update the market segment on a need-to-need basis. It's also good to note that this is not something that will be done at very small intervals or very quick intervals. There will be need to really scope and justify the need to change the current existing market segments, because if we have such a shifting targets, then we won't be able to meet the needs that we want to address. As far as market segments are concerned also, what is important to note is that when we are scoping the market segment, we were putting the current needs and also the future needs. And also for the pipeline investment cases, it is important to have a balance between the current needs and also the future needs. For market segments, the level at which we were determining can either be global, regional, sub-region. At the moment, what we've been able to achieve as module 1, we've been able to do at region and sub-region level. There's some work being done at country level. And of course, with more collaboration also with the NAS partners, there will be more work that we'll be looking at the market segments within a country. Basically, this is to show us what we've just gone through. The consumer needs consideration, which also should also encompass the processor's needs. We also have the grower's consideration, and this is what gives us a market segment. So we looked at 8 components to be able to standardize, because the objective is whichever market segment in whichever crop or center or region, there is a consistent way of naming and identifying the market segment. So these are the 8 components that we have come up with. So for every market segment that has been identified, we have the crop, we have the 1CG region, within which the crop is being grown, the 1CG sub-region, the crop type, and that really entails how the crop is grown, the color of the flesh or the grain, and where the crop is grown within 1CGIR sub-regions, how the crop is grown, and also the maturity. What important to note is some of the components may not be relevant for all the crops. And so depending on the type of crop, some of the components may not really be defined. For example, when it comes to flesh color, some of the crops, it may not be important, while in some crops, it may be important. This is an example just to emphasize on the 8 descriptors that we've just talked about. And this is an example of groundnuts in East Africa, where we can see we have groundnuts, we have the region, we have the sub-region, then we have the crop type. In this case, we have the groundnut can either be used for food or for oil. Then we have the color, we have where the crop is grown in terms of altitude, be it low or mid, how the crop is grown, is it rain-fed or irrigated, maturity, is it early or medium? And what is important to note is given a crop, a different crop, then this may differ. For example, if we were talking about rice, for the rain-fed or irrigated, maybe there are other components that we would put into consideration. Is the rice transplanted or is it direct seeded? So there are components that would change depending on the crop. And again, given such a descriptor, this gives us a good opportunity as far as target product profiles to be able now to differentiate the various traits that would be required to serve these particular market segments. For example, in this case, if you're talking of food versus oil, we would expect that in the target product profile, the groundnuts that are being used for oil, then you would expect the oil content possibly would be higher compared to the one that is being used for food. So it is critical to have a good definition and description of a market segment, because this translates to better scoping of traits when it comes to target product profile. This is just an example of what we've been able to do with the various players. And this is an example of cowpea, IITA. In the first instance, we had very broad descriptions of the market segment, and you can see as highlighted, the description of the market segment was either based on the duration of the maturity of the crop, the color, and also the purpose was not very well defined. You can see we only have medium scale, medium duration, dual purpose, white cowpea, and also medium duration, dual purpose, brown cowpea. And when you look at this, the question that begs is, when it comes to the target product profile, then we would have a very broad description and a very long list of traits that would be used to describe such a market segment. And basically with such a situation, we would not be able to give the breeders a very good opportunity to be able to address the needs that are in that particular market segment. So what did we do? We looked at several steps. What is the crop used for? How is the crop grown, and where the crop is grown, and also to identify the grower sizes. And based on the discussions we had with the team, these are the various uses of cowpea that were identified. And basically, when you look at this, you can see where to prioritize and where not to prioritize. You're also able to see how the grain is used. And this would really advise us, as far as the target product profile is concerned, it would be very concise in terms of the various traits that would really meet the needs of every specific market segment. Because, for example, boiled grain would have different traits requirement compared to something like for flour. And basically, once we come up with the what and how and where the crop is grown, then we are able to answer those questions as far as traits are concerned. The other step was to look at how the crop is grown, and it's either intercropped or soil or pure stand crop. And where it is grown, you can see we kept building on more details. And this is just an example to show that scoping a market segment and describing it is very important to go into details, because this will also help us as far as the target product profile is concerned. So what we've been able to achieve with the 9 centers, we've worked with 25 crops, and so far we've been able to identify 428 market segments. And with all the 428 market segments, we talked about defining, which we've talked about the 8 components. We also now need to have the description of the market segments, where we look at the various metrics that would really describe the opportunity in that market segment. And therefore, for the 428 market segments, we have the area under production for every market segment, the production, the value, and also the population metrics, where we look at the total population, rural population. We also look at poverty and undernourished. And again, you can see with the trend, there is quite some effort to look at the impact areas, the CG impact areas. This has been the guide to really, when we are describing the market segment, that this has been the guide in terms of looking at the opportunity. Who is in this market segment? What is the area in this market segment? And also, we also looked at the market segment footprint, which is basically derived from the rural population density per country, and also the acreage of that particular market segment. So we've been able to come up with a dashboard that has all the descriptors that we've talked about in terms of acreage for every market segment. We have all the metrics, and one is able to filter out the crop of interest, the center of interest. Then you're also able to check which region or sub-region that is of interest. So we've been able to come up with that data. That was just for example purposes. And this sort of the information that one is able to get from the work that has been done by EiB Module 1, where you can filter out all the market segments per crop, per center, 1 CG, region and sub-region, and you're able to see the metrics. And you can see in terms of opportunity, from these metrics, you're able to see which market segment would be of interest, depending on the impact area that you want to have to work on. For example, if it's a project that you are targeting to look at a population that is undernourished, then you would be able to look at which market segment has a higher population of undernourished people, and what can we do to capture that opportunity. If it's on poverty reduction, the same thing, you would be able to filter out and see which market segment has a higher number of people living in poverty, and see what opportunity lies there and what market segment that can help us to really capture the opportunity and create impact. We've also been able to have the opportunity to look at various data within a crop or across crop. And within a crop is basically what I have shown previously in the previous slides, where, for example, this is CMIT wheat market segment, spring wheat market segment in South Asia. And you can see, you're able to see the acreages of the various market segments. You can also go ahead and look at the population matrices. And in this particular case, we are looking at poverty, and you're able to see all the opportunities that lie there as far as the market segments are concerned. We also have an opportunity to look at this information across crop. We talked about inside a crop, within a crop in the previous slide, and we're also able to see in a region, how do the market segment look like for all the crops. And this is an example of Southern Africa, where you can see for all the crops, we have the count of the market segments. And also you may be able to ask questions in terms of these crops, where do we prioritize? And we've been able to come up with the data to look at the consistency of the various metrics and ranking. For example, for this particular one, you can see that for these particular market segments, these are the ones that ranked high across all descriptors. And again, looking at the opportunity where you want to create impact, then this would act as a guide. Again, in the same Southern Africa region, you can see we also have descriptors of market segments that are ranked across, and not all descriptors were consistent as far as ranking is concerned. And basically, when you look at such data, you're able to ask questions that would answer some of the questions one may have in terms of areas to prioritize. But again, as we've been discussing, all this data cannot be looked at in isolation. For example, you may look at this and say rice is ranking a little lower, but when you look at the previous slides that we've talked about, you can see that rice is having very many market segments in Southern Africa, and therefore the metrics are distributed across. So it is good to support data with data so that you're able to make good decisions. So we will go to investment cases briefly before we go to target product profiles. So for the pipeline investment cases, again, going back to what we discussed in terms of opportunity and the investment, there's a need to have a good understanding of the market segments so that we are able to have a better view of the investments, and also to be able to make better decisions as far as investment cases are concerned. And so we talked about market segment, and we talked about the descriptors that we currently have. So the ones that are in black, that is acreage, dollar value, population, poverty level, and undernourished, that we've been able to achieve as far as the current data is concerned because of the descriptors that we talked about previously that are defining the opportunity. However, as far as sustainability and also gender, these are areas we are currently looking at to be able to enrich the data that we already have. So for the current data, the ones in black is what we've been able to scope as far as opportunity is concerned. And the ones in green, that is sustainability and gender, which fall under the 5 impact areas. These are the 2 areas that we will need to look at in future in terms of defining the opportunity. So for the alignment of breeding pipeline with market segments, basically for pipelines, currently from the work we've done, we've seen situations where a pipeline, you have one pipeline serving one market segment. We've also had an opportunity to see a pipeline where several market segments are being serviced. And also we've also come across market segments that have been defined, but there's no pipeline that is currently serving those particular market segments. And basically, when we are talking about market segments, we said we need to have a full view of the market, not only what we are serving, but also what we are not serving, so that we are able to keep tab with market trends and be able to scope opportunities in future. For example, we could have market segments that we are not serving at the moment, but as things evolve, then they would become future market segments that need to be considered. So far, we've been able to identify 119 breeding pipelines have been identified and scoped. However, we also have 101 market segments under sorghum, pearl, finger millet, and these are the crops that basically were being handled by ICRISAT and going forward will be handled by CIMIT. And therefore, these are also a market segment that we will need to look at in terms of aligning them with breeding pipelines. So just to show what's been going on in terms of the current information that we have is with this diagram, you're able to see the center and the crops that are, have the pipelines, and also the width of the width of the diagram shows the level, or the level of the investment, and you can be able to see which crops have more investment and more pipelines or more market segments. And this is information that you can be able to get from the work that we've been able to do. We are working with communications teams in terms of better visualization of the data before it can be really shared with the teams. So going back to the dashboards, just like for the market segments, we've also been able to generate dashboards that show the investment cases. Again, one is able to filter out the pipelines based on the crop and also the centers. And here is where now, when you look at the various metrics, the acreage, the production volume, population in poverty, population undernourished, one is able to interrogate the information and ask why are certain pipelines given more priority over others, and what needs to be done. Is this the optimal situation? And again, data supports data. You could find a situation where maybe you have a pipeline that has a higher investment, and based on the metrics, maybe you could have your doubts. But again, based on drivers and assumption, it is just one is able to justify the level of investment that has been put in a certain pipeline. For example, one of the situations we've come across is maybe biofortification, where we have seen some of the pipelines that are dealing with biofortified crops having a bigger, a substantial investment, yet the metrics are small. But again, when you look at the drivers and assumption, that's a growing market segment. And given the policies that are being put in place, that could really grow into a big opportunity in future. Again, given that breeding takes quite a lot of time, it is good to anticipate the needs in the market so that we are able to take care of them. And by the time we are getting into the future, there are no gaps. These still examples of the pipeline investment cases, again, more descriptors to show us the level of investment per given pipeline. Again, this also, like I said, is not, no single metric is looked at in isolation. There has to be support from also market trends and more information as far as decision making is concerned. So on the last stretch, on the target product profiles, for the target product profiles, and now that we have seen how interlinked market segments and also pipeline investment cases are interlinked, we said that for target product profile, for each market segment has to have a target product profile. And so it is important for us to have a very well-defined market segment for us to be able to come up with a target product, a functional target product profile. So for the target product profile templates, we have the traits that are required. We also have the scale that is used to measure each trait. We have the minimum threshold score required for each trait. We have a definition whether the trait is essential or nice to have, and we'll be looking at the definitions later, and whether the trait will be improved. If it's an essential trait, whether it will be improved or it will be maintained by the breeding team. And it is also important to capture market information. For example, anything that is related to registration processes and the currently leading products in the market, that is important also to put into consideration as far as the target product profile is concerned. So what is critical for the target product profile is a good understanding of the traits. So we said we have two categories of traits. We have essential traits and we have nice to have traits. The essential traits are the must have. These are the ones that really will drive product adoption because they must be in all new products and they must exceed or meet growers' expectation, processors, and also consumer needs, because that is what will really drive adoption. And in the category of essential traits, we have two categories. We have improved trait and threshold trait. For improved trait, these are the subset of traits, essential traits, that are being deliberately improved through the breeding process. So it is very important to also have a good understanding of the current product in the market so that we know what is our base, what are we improving to? Because if we do not have a good understanding of that, we may find ourselves in a situation where, yes, we have listed the improved traits, but the threshold we have put, or the parameter we have put in terms of where it should be improved, the level it should be improved may fall short. So it's good to have a good understanding of what is currently in the market. Then we have the threshold trait and essential traits, which is a subset of essential traits that are being maintained at a current level through the breeding process. As an example, if there's a certain disease that the breeders have been working in terms of tolerance or resistance is concerned, and it is believed that we have reached the optimal level, and it doesn't warrant to have more investment to keep improving it because the benefits do not justify investment. So those are the threshold traits that are just maintained throughout the breeding process. Then we have the nice to have. They do not need to be in all products to drive market segments, to drive product adoption. But in the event that we are, for example, in a advancement meeting, and you have a product that is going head to head in terms of essential traits, then if we can use the nice to have as a tiebreaker in terms of if a product has more nice to have traits, then that would carry the day. What's also important to note is for the nice to have traits, because we say markets are evolving, this could also evolve from being just essential traits based on trends to move from nice to have traits to move to become essential traits. So we cannot entirely ignore the nice to have traits, because with evolving market needs, then they could actually change and become essential traits in future. So far what we've been able to do, we have of the 428 market segments, we have 340 market segments that have target product profiles. And basically, what is good to note is what we talked about, defining the market segments very well, because what we do is we put the target product profile for crops across, so that we are able to really compare in terms of the traits that have been listed. Are they essentially different or not? If they are not differences, then we need to look at the definition of the market segments. And also the other important thing to note is for the target product profile to really become effective, we have to define them very well, because they will become that guide as far as product advancement is concerned, because we have the well-defined traits and the essential traits that we are seeking to improve, and we're able to see, have we met our objective or not? As we come to a close, this is an example of a TPP of spring wheat for South Asia. And what is important to see is at the beginning, we have information that comes from the target, from the market segments. So we have the market segment description, we have which crop this is, we have the CG region and sub-region, then we have the countries that are within that market segment, and we also have the acreages. And now going down is where we have the traits. We have the groupings of the traits, be it grain, be it for processing, be it consumption, nutrition, and we list the traits. Then we have to have the scale, because without the scale, then we do not know what we are working towards. And we also have the minimum score, and this acts as a guide for the breeder to know what is the minimum score, what is the expectation. Then we have what we've talked about in terms of the grouping of the traits, the trait requirements. Is it essential? Is it nice to have? And if it's essential, then we need to say, is it an improved trait or is it a threshold trait? And critical to understand, improved trait is what is improved over the breeding, during the breeding process. Threshold trait is what is being maintained. And for the nice to have, these are not drivers in the market currently, though in future they could become drivers in the market. These are continuation of the listing of the traits. Again, the same thing, the scale, the minimum score, and also the trait requirements. As we come to a close, what is most important throughout the whole process is to have a good base. And a good base is a well-defined market segment, which sets a good foundation for a functional TPP. If our market segments are too broad, then we risk having a very long list of traits, and some of the market needs might be overlooked. And again, if it is too narrow, it becomes very difficult to differentiate between market segments. And basically, this at the end of the day, it shows that we focused on nitty-gritties that do not essentially drive any differentiation as far as product adoption in a given market segment is concerned. The other thing that we need to put in mind is the engagement of a multidisciplinary team in the process to ensure all needs are captured. So this is not a process that is just targeting one discipline, but it's targeting really teamwork so that we have all the input that we require. As you have seen from the TPP template, there is input for various teams, and it is important to really include all the team members during the process so that all the needs are taken care of. The other thing is to have a good understanding of market information, because like we said, as far as essential traits are concerned, and the improved trait for that matter, we need to really have a good understanding. Where is the market and where do we want to take the market? Because that's what will drive product adoption in the market. So that's all from my side. And as we come to a close, going forward, we have the market intelligence team. Work package 1 will be looking at market segment information. Work package 2 will be looking at target product profiles. And work package 4 within market intelligence will be looking at investment cases. And that's how we'll be structured going forward. I know this is work that has previously been handled by EiB module 1, but going forward, this is the team in market intelligence that will be handling all the 3 aspects that we've talked about today. So thank you, and I'll open up to questions.
Thank you, Agnes. That was a terrific presentation. Thanks a lot. Although you came up to the end of the presentation in the last 10 slides, Agnes. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, that was pretty good content, good material, and I think there's going to be plenty of questions. I'm going to start with Ismail because he has his hand raised, and then if somebody wants to put other comments on the chat, please go ahead. But let's start with Ismail.
Yeah, thank you, Eduardo. And Agnes, that's a fantastic presentation, and it makes this process of defining market segments and product profiles very clear. We have struggled a little bit with that, but I think we are getting there. My question is hypothetical, but also sometimes a real situation where you have 2 centers that are working on the same crop, and one of the centers basically shares germplasm or alleles for certain traits, but in the dashboard, that center is claiming or putting out that they're actually breeding for those specific market segments. But we all know that those materials are not adapted. Basically, it's a pre-breeding activity. So how do we clarify this?
Agnes, you are muted, by the way.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ismail, for the question. Very good question. And basically for the pipelines and the market segment, among the things that we've been considering is really looking at the level in terms of the various stages of the product development. And based on that, we are able to do tiers. It's still work in progress in terms of defining the various tiers within the breeding program, where you can have tier 1, where it is the whole development. Then you can have tier 2, where maybe it is just crossing. And we can have tier 3 and 4 and 5. Tier 5, no work is being done, but 3 and 4 is where you have early testing and late testing. And basically with that, we are able now to differentiate what level of effort is going for in a given market segment. Because currently, when we are looking at the work that falls within a pipeline, is basically from crossing to product launches and the stages in between. And I'll also give Peter an opportunity to respond to that.
Thanks, Agnes.
Great question. And I think, these are the sorts of questions that having this data pulled together allows us to ask and get an answer to. So we need to continue to drill into this and just really understand, okay, what groups are doing population development for a particular market segment, what groups are doing product development for a particular market segment. And as you point out, in some cases, we've got multiple centers working on the same crop or in the same market segment. And so we need to work through just, okay, how do we resource and how do we manage those areas where there is duplication or overlap as we move forward. And so, I see this as a sort of a data set that identifies some of those issues. We need to start now to work through and say, how do we most effectively resolve those issues so that we are being as effective and efficient as we can with the investments that we have to generate product for a particular market segment.
Yep. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, hopefully as soon as the data is there and we can start making some comparisons to understand if there is some overlap in this, Ismail, can be addressed as Peter mentioned. I'm going to move to Chris because we have limited time and I know that there's still people that want to ask questions. Chris, please go ahead.
Thanks. I'll make mine brief. Thanks, Agnes. Mine is basically with regard to the market intelligence information as informs the market segments. Would it be relevant to look at the potential impact pathways? For example, smallholder farmers sometimes constitute like 80 or 90% of the main consumers. They produce and consume for some crops, while in other crops there's production mainly for sale, production for market and probably slightly larger farmers. As we define the market segments, are we just considering the area number of farmers, or are we also considering the potential area where we are likely to make the greatest impact? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for that important question. And I think I'll just take us back to the example we gave for Southern Africa as far as cowpea is concerned. And we looked at the previous work that was done and the current work that is ongoing. And you saw there was quite some detail that came up from that work in terms of enriching the information. And among the things that we had listed is who is growing. And we had listed the large-scale farmers and also the small-scale farmers and put the percentages. And basically that would advise, for example, if it's large-scale farmers, then you would look at mechanization. When you look at the small-scale farmers, then you would look at other needs, for example, like intercropping, which would really have a different need as opposed to the large-scale farmers. So to answer your question, yes, it is being put into consideration in terms of how can we enrich this information further to become relevant as far as meeting specific market needs are concerned. And I believe even going forward, the market intelligence team will be looking at some of the details that will be important in terms of enriching the information that we currently have.
Thank you, Agnes. Thanks, Chris, for the question. I'm going to move to Sankal. Sankal, please
Yeah, but I don't have a question. I just have a comment. And again, congratulations, Agnes, and also Peter. I think I do see, I think so many things could be done where the course correction on the current investments could be done. I know we are almost at the beginning of the process, for some a little bit ahead, but I think we could definitely, as we get more information on some of the topics that issues that Chris was mentioning about the incidence of poverty and hunger and malnutrition, I think we have a chance to, reconsider our investments. And that's a very useful information as we go forward. I just think, it could be used in various ways. And I think the opportunity is really great. So again, thank you, Agnes. You have really, nicely put it forward. Thanks. That's what I want to say. Eduardo, thank you.
No, thanks, Sankalp, for the comment. And yeah, as Sankalp was mentioning, I mean, there is several advantages of having these product profiles defined in market segments, especially as Christian is also putting on the chat. Even for your efforts on defining selection indices and optimization methods, those are also useful to have, because if the product profile and the selection index don't match, well, that means that probably we're missing something either in the product profile or in the selection index. So we might not be able to achieve the product that you at the end want to release to the farmers. There was also a question there from Bodo on the role of NARS in defining the market segments and the product profiles. Chris or Peter want to comment on that?
No, it's a great question, and it's the next step, and it's what the market intelligence initiative will do now, is to essentially use this work as a starting point to go out and have discussions with NAS, and in those discussions validate, are the market segments that we've identified at the sub-region level appropriate, or do we miss some market segments? And then also to start to look at the target product profiles and say, yeah, we've got target product profiles at a sub-region level. As we take them to the country level, I expect that in some countries, some nice to have traits at the sub-region level may become essential in a particular country, or some essential traits at the sub-region level may become nice to have in a particular country, and that the thresholds may change slightly. So I see this as a building block. We have to get this piece done first at that 1CG sub-region level. Now we need to extend it to the NAS and basically use the same framework, the same approach. And I would expect to see that the market segment should dovetail together, and that the TPP should be very close, but we'll have subtle differences when we go to the country level instead of the sub-region level. So all work that needs to get done, but we've got a starting point now, and we've got a consistent approach. And so I think we're in a good position to move forward and get the country level detail.
Yep. Agnes, can you emphasize just very quickly, since you have been reviewing all this data, most of the product profiles, I mean, at what level are they, being considered? Country, region, global? There is a couple of comments in the chat that they want to know where the CG is moving, towards the global aspect or specific environment. So I guess they're trying to look at what is the regional, or you know what I mean.
Okay, thank you for that question. Currently, with the 340 that we have, we've looked at the sub-region level. And basically, like Peter highlighted, this is a starting point. And we had to start somewhere. And we do recognize at country level, there could be very specific needs, and especially in country. Within the country, there could be some specific needs that would need to be addressed. For example, if you have a niche market in a specific country, then that would need to be addressed. So this is a base as a starting point, but again, also engaging NAS partners to be able to see specific needs that are within a country is something that we'll be moving towards.
Yep. Thanks, Agnes. Bodo, you have a comment or a question?
Yes, thank you very much. Just to extend a little bit on this comment before, and Peter's reply to that, I meant it even going farther, because we understood in the beginning, when I started more than 2 years ago, the common saying was, yeah, market information, this is something that is with the NARES. So a NARES is a National Agricultural Research and Extension System. And there are in some countries, for example, in those where I have grown up, agencies that register everything. They record everything, they register the varieties, they register companies that are trading these varieties, the seed, the chemicals, everything, and also the yields and the produce that is sold when and marketed. And when all this data is made available through these agencies, and this is where the agricultural sector draws its information on the market segments from, usually, right? Now I see from my little experience here in West Africa, that is not quite available by now. But the idea isn't the idea for all of us to eventually get the NARES on the ground into that position that they can readily collect this information and provide it. And maybe there are developments of this kind, of course, they are, and they may be at different levels. And maybe would it not be a nice task for our allied, the agriculture people, the social scientists, all these people that are working around us in the other initiatives, to reach out to the NARES and to look maybe together with Agnes and Peter and others, what is already there and what might be filled soon, and then to step out to these and tell them and help them developing this. It's just an idea, because somehow this effort is, I mean, it is great. It is absolutely needed to have this. But until now, it looks like a one-time effort, and we need for the future something that is steadily updated and further developed, monitoring the developments of these NARES. As the populations are growing, as the cities are growing, as the populations in the rural areas are changing.
Okay.
Thank you for it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Bodo. Peter, Agnes, any last comment, because we have to close the meeting now?
I mean, I guess my comments would be, I mean, a sincere thank you to everybody that's been involved in this. I mean, Agnes and I put a structure in place, but all the information came from breeding leads and breeding teams. And you know, to build on Bodo's comment and others, this is just a starting point. This is capturing what's in place today. We really need to take a step back and say, how do we work with the NAS to improve this and validate it? And then more importantly, how do we jump 10 years out and start looking at what do we believe the market segments will be in 10 years time? Because in reality, that's when the products we're developing today will come to market. And so we need to be sure we understand what's needed in the future, and that we're developing those products. So this is all a work in progress. It got us a consistent approach. It got us a consistent data set. It's far from complete. There's lots of opportunities to improve it. So I would ask everybody that's been on the call, reflect on what you've heard. If you see opportunities or ways to improve it, or more importantly, ways to simplify it, please let us know and we'll do it, right? And so a key part of this is just getting this information out in front of folks in a consistent way, hopefully in a clear way that it's easily understood, that we can really start to understand what's being done today, and are we doing the right things? And if we have to prioritize, what are we going to use to prioritize, right? And that was the intent of the descriptors of the market segments. We have a few descriptors. We're working closely with the Market Intelligence Initiative to get more descriptors of the market segments, and we'll keep building this. But you know, think of this as we got to first base. We've still got a long way to go before we get home, and so we need your input to help us as we move forward and continue to make this better and more robust and more useful. Right? Those are the keys. So again, appreciate everyone's efforts and would appreciate your thoughts and comments on how we can improve it as we go forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Peter. People is already leaving, so I'm going to finish the call. Agnes, thanks a lot. Terrific presentation. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I will make the recording available in case you want to take a look again, and also Agnes' presentation. So thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, and please feel free to send additional questions to Peter if something was not answered. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Agnes.
Yeah, thanks, Eduardo. Thanks, Agnes. It was great.
See you.
Thanks, Eduardo.
Thanks, everyone.